want to pull up this tweet from Luke Rutkowski. It's actually a quote from Carnivore Aurelius, who is showing a graph, who says, pretty wild. Caloric intake hasn't increased since 1999, but obesity has increased 30%. Something is poisoning our metabolism. Now, what he shows in the chart is the total energy intake on average per person is just above 2,000. So it looks like it's about 2,200 calories per day from 99 throughout every year up until 2018. But obesity starts around, I don't know what this, percent obese starts at around 31% and jumps to 43%. So I don't see obesity didn't increase 30%. That's wrong. And there is a context here added through community notes that says per capita caloric availability has increased substantially. First thing to point out, availability is not intake. This is showing the difference between availability and intake. So availability may have gone up. Intake appears, according to this, from 99 to 2018 to not have gone up that much, but obesity has increased by about 12%, it looks like. So the question is, what is causing people to get so massively fat? And this person said, something is poisoning our metabolism. Luke replies, you're being poisoned and most people don't even know about it. Maybe. But I'm going to throw this in there as well, the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say it's lifestyle, right? I mean, there was this study done that the average human body temperature has gone down by, I think, like a degree or more, which sounds like not that much, but when it's your body, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's because we're not moving around, right? We are sedentary, so our heart rates aren't as high. I mean, calorie is a measure of burning a unit of energy, right? And if you're literally sitting still, you're not burning energy.
I just want to say this, and call it a humble brag, fine. People should brag about these things. So right now, my resting average heart rate is about 48 beats per minute. I went to the hospital for dehydration like a year and a half ago, and they hooked me up, and the alarm started going off. The nurse comes in, and she looks at me, and she goes, "You an athlete?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she hits a button and walks out. It's insane to me that I'm talking to someone, and they're like, a good resting heart rate is 60. And I'm like, maybe. I'm not a doctor. But, like, I do. Well, I think it's fair to say I do pretty intense cardio every day with skating, like 2 hours of like high heart rate. Fine. But I certainly feel like 60 seems like a lot. People used to walk around and do stuff even 20, 30 years ago. And now they do nothing. I think this is what's driving up obesity.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, what would we do? And I think everybody knows this. You'd be like, I'm going to go to my friend's house. Guess what? You walk there, you ride your bike, you skate. Mm-hmm. And then even when video games started becoming prevalent, I'd still ride my bike or skateboard or rollerblade or whatever to my friend's house. Then we'd play video games, and then we'd be like, let's go to the candy store. And then we would ride our bikes, and it would be like a mile or back to the candy store. This is crazy. The old guy trope from when we were kids was, I used to walk 50 miles to school every day, uphill in both directions. Now it's like, when I was a kid, we used to ride our bikes a mile to get to the candy store to buy, $5 worth of Laffy Taffy or whatever. But we were still being active. Now what happens is kids wake up, they roll over onto their sides, grab the controller off the floor, press the Xbox button, turning it on. TV automatically turns on with the system. And then they put their earpiece in or their headphones on. They look at their friends list like, what up? And they start playing.
Right. Or think of the effects of virtual school, right? Like if you're in Zoom class all day, I mean, it's not a ton, but if during COVID, you couldn't play sports and you weren't in school. So the time that you have like passing period when you're walking the hallways, that momentary break, if you're just completely online, screen after screen after screen after screen, you're not doing any of that and you don't have any after school activity. I also think that just generally this idea of like, I think all of us do. It's like you work on your laptop and so you sit for several hours a day. Like that wasn't the majority of the American workforce for, years and years and years and years. So we created a lifestyle that's sedentary and then we had to like introduce ways to combat that, right? In the 1950s, there weren't really the abundance of workout studios, right? Like maybe there were some people that would go to the gym or whatever, but it wasn't the sort of institution for the dink lifestyle they have now. This like dual income, no kids, like, oh, well, how am I going to get to my, Pilates class? Not to knock Pilates or anything like that, but like we lived an active lifestyle, so you didn't have to find ways to supplement being active. I think we just created a culture of convenience that encouraged us to stay still.
Well, I mean, not just encouraged us, but like made moving not unnecessary, and so all of the significant number of the jobs out there are jobs that you sit down to do, people, and when like entertainment, people don't go and do things outside. They play video games very frequently. Like we were talking
More
earlier,
people have cars. You're not walking places.
We were talking earlier how sports are not really something that Gen Z is interested in anymore. And that's partially because it's not an activity that they partake in. Never mind, a lot of people that are like jocks that are watching baseball and basketball and stuff. They also play those sports. It's part of the reason that they are interested is because it's an activity they enjoy doing. So the fewer people that are playing active sports, you have fewer people that are getting into that stuff young. And I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and a lot of it is just the modern society that we live in.
This is why I think the Caitlin Clark stuff is great. Anything that's promoting athletes, I don't care. Like whatever, just like celebrate athletes and get young people to do sports. I was talking about this earlier. Skateboarding is, I was reading one poll. I don't know how scientific it is. 55% of skateboarders are over the age of 30, which means the industry is collapsing. There's not going to be young people to buy products, to watch the content, for parents to support. And so this is going to cause a retraction or a contraction in the industry. And it's not just skateboarding, it's basically everything. And it's partly due to population stagnation, I guess. There's not new people to pick up the industry. But it's not just skateboarding, it's basically all sports are suffering from something like this. And I think the scary thing is, as Phil's saying, like young people don't do sports. They don't go outside. But the one thing I can't say, to all the skateboarders that are left remaining, once everyone's living in the pod and eating the bugs, we can go skate unbothered in the streets without anyone kicking us out. And so, okay, I guess. But it is rather nightmarishly dystopian.
I think young people, really young people, don't look up to athletes in the way that they used to. Now they look up to someone, like Kim Kardashian, and they see her on their TikTok feed, and that's who they aspire to be. They want to be an influencer. They don't necessarily want to be a pro athlete. If you went back to, 1980 and you ask kids who they would want to be, they would probably say, oh, NBA, or I want to be, a professional football player, things like that, professional
Nowadays,
baseball
kids
player.
want to be a content creator.
Exactly. Now they want to be a content creator. They want to live the bougie lifestyle that they see on their Instagram feed. And I think that's feeding into a lot of it. And then the food as well. I think what we're consuming is horrible for us. I
absolutely want to call out this chat from Ron Jones. Said, Tim is 39 skateboarding, LOL. First, I'm 38. And yes, there's a Mr. Bocas board right behind me. Oh, there it is. And this is the fascinating thing. There is a really high likelihood that Ron Jones is obese, is the guy commenting. And I'm not saying that because I know Ron or that because he is or anything like that. I'm saying the average person is reaching like these 43% in 2018 are obese, meaning if someone said, is Ron Jones obese? I'd be like, I got a coin flip's chance that this guy's a fat dude complaining about me exercising. But this is part of it. What is this mentality where there are people online being like, you play sports? I sit around and do nothing. Like, why are you ragging on people who are exercising?
See, I took it as like skateboarders have this like, silly, like people don't take it seriously as a sport. Because if you had been like, oh yeah, I run 5 miles every day. I mean, Chuck Grassley, when he announced he was going to run for re-election, was like, I still run, 4 miles every day, even though I'm 83 years old or whatever it is. Like, I feel like that was a dig at skateboarding that's sort of unfair. Like, at least you're up and exercising. If we had said, you're like, oh, I swim 2 miles every day, people have been like, wow, great, good job.
But it's like, I don't care. I don't care if you're rollerblading. People rollerblade, they get made fun of. Like, why? You're exercising, doing intense cardio, VO2 max, you're exercising. There are people who literally sit around all day. They, on average, don't exercise. They're getting overweight. They're suffering from heart disease. They're getting blood clots. They're getting cancer. And they're going online and they're making fun of people who exercise, whatever the exercise may be. That's crazy. We have to shift this culture around, and we got to go Jack LaLanne, baby. We got to get everybody in their 70s just like doing pull-ups.
Well, we need everyone to get married and have a family and then take them on evening bike rides or take them to the skate park at night. Like, you have to have a culture that is like, we aren't going to go from staring at your screen when you wake up in the morning and then going to your office job where you stare at your screen and then coming home to sit on the couch and stare at another screen while you hold your tiny screen. Like, and this is a joke that I see online a lot, and we're all guilty of it at times. On the other hand, like, we can't just let ourselves fall to the lowest common denominator. We have to strive to be better here.
Remember that viral video of the image of masculinity? It was the guy who was like, a day in my life. and he exemplified all of the greatest traits of manliness by going to work, making his lunch, going back to his computer typing, driving home, working out. And they were like, people were shocked and they're like, this is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. The dude's married to his high school sweetheart, has his first kid on the way. He's in his late 20s. He exercises every day. He works a stable job, comfortable working at a computer. He's doing everything perfectly. He is the perfect image of like a good person doing what you're supposed to be doing, being responsible. And they lost their minds over it. Amazing.
Yeah.
Why? What was their complaint?
Because
It's traditional.
he's far right.
Oh,
He's
I
an
forgot.
extremist.
It's hard for me to understand because I'm on the watch list for wanting kids.
But this is exactly it. A guy who goes to work with a smile on his
Yeah.
face, sits at his computer, cooks his lunch, goes home. He was doing like, what was he doing? Like squats or something and lifting. And they were just like, oh, I'm so terrified of this. How did we get to that point where the guy who's doing like I gotta be honest, he's doing the bare minimum. He's doing the minimum requirement of being a good person. He is your average good person. He's starting a family. He's doing all this stuff, and they're attacking him relentlessly. What they want you fat, sick, living in a pod, and eating the bugs. I just gotta say, man, like, hey, you do you. You want to live in the pod, eat the bugs. You go ahead. You want your kids living in the pod and eating the bugs.
But they don't want
bugs,
kids.
fine.
No kids for them.
Yeah, no kids for them. No kids for them. They want your kids living in the pod and eating the bugs, and that should be scary.
Yeah, that's where it becomes like, it goes from being like, look, if you want to poison yourself, if this is a lifestyle you find fulfilling, you don't want to do anything, okay. As soon as it becomes a mandate for everybody else and their children, it's deeply concerning.
None of this stuff is optional according to the left. Like none of there is no room for individuals. It's a collective thing. The whole environmental movement is all a collective thing. And the reason is because they're going to say, oh, well, if you are doing things, then other people are going to do things. So it has to be everybody that's on the same page, etc. And they're after things like your property, your ability to travel and probably conduct business in significant ways. It's a significant amount of control that the government wants. I don't think that people realize how attractive China's system is to Western governments. China's system of control is something that Western governments really, really, really want because you don't have to. Whereas China does have the option to come down with the boot, they don't have to. They can use control by social credit system, by turning.
They can market it as we're not doing it through force. Obviously, they are.
Exactly. They can go ahead and use what they would consider soft power, or just influence or whatever. The government wants that just as bad. Like this government wants this as badly as any other government in history would have wanted it. You know.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.